Hello, everyone. I'm Cub Buning, the Director of Education here at the Colorado Media School, and welcome to a special podcast of our video training series. Today, we're going to kill two birds with one stone. We'll interview a Colorado Media School graduate, Sheera Poelman, about creating news packages. I want to start by introducing our special guest today, Sheera Poelman. Sheera graduated from Colorado State University with a bachelor's in speech communication in 2006. In 2010, Sheera enrolled here at the Colorado Media School, where she completed the program in 2011. Sheera was nominated and won the ACCSC National Student of the Year Award in 2013. After graduating from CMS, Sheera was employed by the Denver Public Schools, where she produced, wrote, and hosted an interagency program called DPS Digest. Now, DPS Digest featured stories about outstanding teachers, students overcoming enormous challenges, and stories of hope and inspiration across the DPS system. While there at DPS, Sheera also worked part-time as the marketing coordinator here at CMS. And also during that time, she did 3 tours at the Super Bowl, working as a media coordinator for the NFL's public relations department. And she was actually a subject of a sports news package by WLOX in Biloxi, Mississippi, during her second Super Bowl. Well, fast forward April 2013, Sheera became the anchor and producer at CBS News KGWN in Cheyenne, Wyoming, where she worked for just over a year. In 2014, Sheera moved up 77 market levels when she became the morning news anchor and multimedia journalism reporter at WMAZ Channel 13 in Macon, Georgia. Moving back to Denver, she moved up 100 markets in 2016. Sheera began working for Total Traffic as a traffic reporter and as the afternoon drive time news anchor and fill-in airborne traffic reporter on 850 KOA News Radio at iHeartMedia. It is my great pleasure to introduce Sheera Poelman.
That's quite the introduction.
I know. There's a lot there. You've done a lot in just the last few years since graduating.
It took some time, yes.
Well, Sheera, as you know, we asked you here today to talk about creating video packages. Okay, we found that with today's students and the changes in how they get their news from non-traditional venues like Twitter and Facebook and all the things that we all use nowadays, it may mean they've never really considered how to create a 90-second package. In fact, some of the teachers here at school claim this is one of the most challenging concepts that they have to teach. So how long did it take before you had a good understanding of making an excellent video package?
I think it takes a long time. And it's just like anything, the more you do it, the better you get. But I think you also have to think outside of the box that this is an insanely important element, whether you're doing TV, whether you're doing radio. There's a visual element that is on everything now that we have the web. So that's something to think about.
Cool. Yeah. So let's say one of our student graduates. They get a position with some local news station. They come into that work that first day. They're in their editorial meeting, and they're given a story on a subject they know nothing about. Where would they start?
Well, first of all, never go into an editorial meeting without ideas.
Right.
You need to have a pile of ideas that you're presenting always in those meetings. And also, something that you're interested in is going to be a lot more fun to cover than something that you just get assigned to cover. That said, it happens often that, hey, you're doing this story. Right. This is your assignment for the day.
Okay, fair enough. So let's say recently the city of Denver, through an ordinance voted by the city council, they outlawed the declawing of cats. If I were assigned the story as a package, I wouldn't know where to start.
Right. And I'm not a big cat person. I'm probably definitely more of a dog person. So the first thing you need to do is research. You also mentioned that legislation is involved in this. So you need to know what exactly that is, what exactly those rules are. You also have to think who's going to be telling your story for you. Because yes, you're a reporter. Your job is to be a storyteller, but you're not the expert on this topic. So who are you going to find who can tell both sides of this story that you can interview? You need to go find somebody and have them speak on it.
So you would definitely try and go get an interview during this process.
Absolutely. Okay. If you were doing a package, you need an interview, period. Also, see cat, say cat, right? We're doing a package on cats. Where am I going to find cats? So you have to think outside of the box. What are good partners that I have? Maybe there's a friend who has cats, but where am I going to find a lot of cats? In my opinion, as a reporter, I would want a group of cats. The Cat Care Society is a great option. Humane Society, but something close that you can go, that you've worked with before, where you can get footage of the animals.
Okay, so you said you're a dog person, not so much a cat person. Is your opinion ever a part of these packages?
Your opinion is never a part of a package, ever. You're a reporter, you're a journalist. You don't want them to know what you think. That's not your job. Your job is to tell the story of the expert, of people who can speak to this, and also find some cats.
Okay, so your opinion, not so important.
Never important.
What about the general public? I mean, guys on the street, men on the street, as a follow-up question, how do you get information from them as far as, the story?
Absolutely. I think public opinion in this is probably very important. That's why the law was probably brought up, why the law was probably passed, is people are opinionated on their cats, on if it's good for the cat, bad for the cat. A great thing to do is crowdsource. And what I mean when I say crowdsource is using Facebook, using Twitter to your advantage. I can't tell you how many times I have posted things on Facebook of just, hey, do you have an opinion on this? Do you care about this? And got some very colorful characters that make great packages.
Okay. So from those colorful characters, you're trying to get great sound bites, great quotes. Sound bites, a term around here that some students, they hear and not really sure. How would you describe what a sound bite is?
That's fair. You're getting an interview. You're getting somebody saying something. So it's going to be about 5 to 10 seconds, but it is sound that you can use. It's a picture that you can use as well. So both of those in this element of speaking of sound bites, it's just a little section of that interview.
Okay, cool. You mentioned crowdsourcing and using social media. Can you be more specific about what you mean by how that helps you get information or get possible interviews?
Definitely. I think you can post on there, post on your Facebook page, post on the station's Facebook page. Does anybody have an opinion about declawing cats? Did you know that we were declawing cats? Was anybody involved in making this happen? You can also use social media to find your local veterinarians and IM them, message them, figure out ways to contact them. Same thing on Twitter. You can always get a lot of response, I feel like, on Twitter. And things that are trending.
Yeah, people have opinions on Twitter.
They do.
They like to share them too. So you mentioned, speaking to an expert, so in this situation, to be a veterinarian or someone who works with, Humane Society. Is it a challenge? Was that, something that initially was hard to kind of get those interviews set up? Or
it's always a challenge because as a reporter, you got assigned that this morning, and let's say you've got the 5 o'clock newscast. That's when your package is slotted to go, which means you have to get this done in a couple hours. I would reach out to my local veterinarian personally because I already have a relationship with them, but they might tell me no. They might be booked for the day. So just keep calling, because the worst somebody's going to say to you is no.
Okay.
But eventually somebody will say yes.
So you finally get that person to say yes. So what kind of prep or what kind of planning are you going into that interview?
Well, we mentioned research. So you're making your phone calls. Okay, now you've got this interview set up for 1 o'clock. Perfect. Between this time and 1 o'clock, I want to make sure I'm researching so I am as of an expert as I can become in that time. I'm going to write down my questions, a list of questions that I want to ask, because I've learned now what the law says, and now I'm going to craft my questions around that for the expert to answer. But a big important thing is don't be married to those questions. Okay. Because doing an interview, they might say something very compelling and you want to expand on that. So just make sure that you listen to the interviewee.
When you're setting up those interviews, is it something that you have to be real formal as far as I want this to happen now or at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, or is it something you can be kind of loose with, or do you need to be, are you typically setting up specific time and days for these interviews?
Ideally, that day I need it as soon as I can. But you have to be very respectful of that person and of their time. They're doing you a favor by allowing you to come into their business and by allowing you their time. And time is money for a lot of professionals. So you need to go in and be prepared that you're going to respect that.
You mentioned not being married to your questions. You're at that point where you got everything in your head figured out as far as the story and what it is, who, what, where, when, why, all those things. You've prepared, written down questions. How do you go from there? What's the next step as far as when you're starting the interview?
Right. So your time. You've got to be there at this time. Grab your gear and go. Okay. And as I mentioned, professionalism is paramount. You want to be prepared. You want to not waste their time, and you don't have a lot of time to waste either. So the more organized you are, the better. And you want to make sure that your gear is ready, that you have everything that you need before you walk out the door.
Okay, so I'm guessing there's been a time when your gear wasn't ready, or you showed up at a shoot and you didn't have anything ready, or you were missing an SD card,
yes,
battery pack. Can you share a story?
Absolutely. I had an appointment with the mayor. Oh, right? Yes.
So kind of important.
The mayor. Right. They had blocked out this time. I had snuck in there. I had an exclusive. No other station had this. I showed up and I didn't have an SD card. Yeah.
What did you do? What did you do?
I called a fellow reporter who was also in the field and close to me, thank goodness, who ran one over. But you never want to be in that environment. Additionally, I've had interviews where I didn't have batteries in my microphone. So not just thinking about your camera battery, thinking about having double A's on you all the time because your stick mic, your lav mic. I got an interview without any audio one time. So you get back to the station and that's not going to work for you.
So having a plan B, a plan C, a plan D.
Just making sure that, that your camera's formatted properly, that your settings are set on that camera, that you have batteries, that you have everything that you need. Because when you walk in to speak to the mayor, you want to be considered a professional.
Okay, so let's say you did bring an SD card to your interview with the mayor and you were totally ready to go. You get there. How does this start? Like, what's the first part?
First of all, look at your surroundings and think audio as well as visual. I think a lot of the time we think, I'm getting video footage. And so you don't think about the audio around you, whether there's a barking dog in the background, whether there's car sirens or traffic noise. So you want to be very conscious of that. And then also look around and look at what the lighting looks like. You don't want to set up an interview right in front of a window, because you're not going to see anything. So you want to set the location, and make sure that everything is good to go.
So you spoke about audio, obviously an important part of every video package you do, but what kind of microphones do you usually use in these types of situations?
In this situation, I would try to bring a lavalier mic, which is that mic that you snake up their shirt, kind of pin it right to their collar. Sure. That's always going to be good audio. And then that allows me as well to use my shotgun mic to get any natural sounds, because maybe I do want some dogs, some cats who are in the vet office kind of barking or meowing in the background. That said, if you're in an on-the-fly situation, you've got breaking news, that's when you want that stick mic. So you can just kind of get it in there, because maybe you're in a press pool where 20 other people are getting the same interview as you are.
Battling for space.
Exactly. Right. Step one, never ever hand your stick mic to your interviewee.
Why?
They tend to hold it up here and they look very awkward as it's sticking in the shot and they're holding it, talking into the microphone. And that doesn't look very natural or tell the story very well. Okay, so microphones. That sounds good. What about headphones? Do you use headphones when you're doing interviews? You always want to use headphones. I mentioned that story of getting an interview without any sound. That's because I didn't use any headphones. Gotcha. So the way I usually wear mine is I'll have one ear on and one ear just off. So that way I can hear them and I can still have a pretty natural conversation, but at the same time I can hear them and make sure that the microphones are picking up what they're saying. Gotcha. What about tripods? Always tripods? Always use tripods. I know that you might think, I'm really good at this. I can get a good shot. I have the steadiest hand. Exactly. You don't. You don't have a none of us have a steady hand. In any environment, always use a tripod if you can. If you can't use a tripod, maybe it's a really tight space. Do everything that you can to find some sort of stabilization. Okay. You're there, you got the interview, the vet's there, they're getting ready to tell you everything about why declawing is bad. How is that shot framed up of that person? So I always want to frame up a tight shot. The way I do it is I flip my video finder around and then I will stick one leg between the legs of the tripod and one leg on the outside of the tripod. And the reason I want this is because I want my interview subject to be facing out of frame just a little bit. We call that nose room. So you're going to be really tight, no looser than their midsection, no looser than their waist. And then when you get that little nose room going, I want to step over to that side so they face off that camera side to me. And that's how I'm going to frame the shot. Okay. So tripod set up, headphones ready, everything's ready to go. How does the interview start? How do you begin? The first thing I always do is please spell your name and title, or please spell your name and tell me your full name and title. So that way I can always get it correct. That also helps me to start hearing them speak into the microphone so I can hear that audio coming through on my headphones and I can see those levels bouncing in my viewfinder. Okay, makes sense. So interview's done. You got some great sound bites. Great material there. You thank the person. You got your A-roll. Is this when you start shooting B-roll? Well, really quick on that, I want to just mention that when you're interviewing somebody, make it a genuine conversation. Don't be married to those questions and really let them expand on what they're going to say. Additionally, I always try to ask them, is there anything else you want to add? Is there anything else that I missed? Because again, they're the expert. And I want to make sure I'm getting everything that's important. And maybe your questions just didn't funnel them the way they wanted to. Exactly. Maybe they, feel really passionate that all cats need to be declawed and this is really good. You want to get that from them. So B-roll, again, it's a term we hear a lot. Probably not a lot of people know exactly what that is. I mean, you got B-roll of the interview. Is there other stuff you got to get done? Absolutely. You're thinking, okay, I've got maybe a 90-second package, maybe a minute 30. Always shoot more than what you think you need. So if the veterinarian mentioned this is the tool we use to declaw cats, get that tool. We always say see dog, say dog. I'm going to say see cat, say cat in this example. So that's the tool they use. That's how we lay the cat down to do it. Just make sure that you get all of those visual elements as well. Another important thing is you're in a great visual space right now. You're at a veterinarian office. They might have a sign that has a big cat on it. That's a great place to do your stand-up. So if you're going to do a stand-up for your piece, this is the time I would shoot it.
Okay, that makes sense. What about Nat sound? Again, I would guess that might vary per the story, but is that something you always want?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is where, okay, so maybe you're moving on from that veterinarian office and we're heading over to the Cat Care Society because I want to get a bunch of cats. But when you think about cats, you hear cats as well. All of us knows meow. Oh, that's cat. So I want to get that sound, and you want to get in their environment. Do the best that you can. I mean, and this, I would quite honestly be crawling on my knees, camera on the floor, getting a cat walking in and out of a frame. I would be getting claws of cats. And then you want to make sure that that stick mic or your lav mic or your shotgun mic, whichever one you're using, is picking up somebody meowing, picking up the sound it makes when their claws hit the ground. I mean, all of these things sound silly, but a news director said to me once, Nat sound is the breath of a package, and it gives it life. And I can't tell you how many times I've been so grateful for the fire hose that popped off of the fire hydrant because that's such great sound.
Okay, so you're done at the vet's office. You got the interview done. Your B-roll's done. You think you got plenty of material here. What's next?
This is when you're going to head back and start editing. So you're going back to the station to start editing. So first step is pull up that interview. That interview is the skeleton of your package.
Start with the interview?
Always.
Okay.
And you're going to listen to your entire interview. And what I do is this is when I start cutting those sound bites. And we talked about what is a sound bite. It's about 5 to 10 seconds of a person saying something that is valid and valuable. So I take that and I cut that in my editing line, and I always keep my video and my audio married, and I just move it down. So I will pull down probably 7 to 10 sound bites.
Okay. And then how is the editing? I mean, from there, you got your sound bites. How do you edit the pack? I mean, what's next?
Then I write around the sound bites. So
what does that mean, right around the sound bites?
That's fair. So let's say somebody said, the veterinarian said, declawing cats is now illegal in Colorado. So I would start the package with a meow, and then straight off, declawing cats is blah, blah, in Colorado. And then I would say, veterinarian Susie Smith feels passionate about the new legislation passed in Denver. Another soundbite from Susie.
So the soundbite's dictating your words that you're choosing for your package.
Exactly. Okay. And then I would say something else that moves that story along.
Okay. So editing the whole package, I mean, kind of big picture-wise, how do you organize that whole thing?
Right. So big picture, I pulled down my sound bites, and then I just track my audio of the things that I'm saying around Susie, our veterinarian. And then when I have that stacked, I plop her in between. So I'm going to put that audio right in between my audio, and then decide, do I want pictures of Susie talking? Probably in the beginning because I want to introduce her. But as that package moves on, this is where our footage of cats comes in and is really important. Or as she's speaking about the tool that she uses, I now have footage of that tool. I'm going to put that right over her soundbite, and I'm going to fill in cats over the words that I'm saying. So it just creates a complete video line as well as that complete audio line.
Okay. Well, that's about it for here, but I guess I should conclude this interview with that question. Do you have anything else to add?
I guess don't get discouraged.
Okay.
Shoot more than you think you're going to need. And video is huge. I think that this skill, shooting packages, if you think about things you've seen on Facebook or you think about things you've seen on Twitter, that is part of radio now.
Right.
So it's all one.
Okay. Well, thanks, Sheera, so much. That concludes this special podcast in our video training series. Make sure you take time to understand the concepts that Sheera has shared with us. And if you're confused about any part of the process, you need to make sure you ask your instructor for clarification before going out to shoot your packages. So on behalf of Sheera Poelman, I'm Cub Buning. Thanks for listening.
And Georgia's first LEGO League state competition is this weekend up in Athens. And I caught up with the only elementary school team that is representing Bibb County this year. For most of us, when we think about Legos, we think about toys.
But they hear Lego and they think that it's just building something. A lot of people don't even know that there is a robot made by Lego.
But over at Vineville Academy, it's not about toys or even robots. It's about learning. The Vineville Panda Bots is a robotics team in their first year of competition.
They go and they compete at competition. They have to program the robot ahead of time.
That means the team used a computer to plan every move this robot makes.
They have designed and built their own robot with all their own attachments. It's all their own design.
How we stay on track right here, it's by, like, when it sees green, it goes left. When it sees white, it goes right. So it keeps on going that, until it gets to here, then it pulls.
And if that's not daunting enough,
They also have to do a research project that's based on whatever the theme of the year is. This year's theme is World-Class Learning Unleashed, and so they had to come up with a question. Our team decided, how do we make it easier to learn fire safety? And they came up with a family board game. So they have to go and they have to present that to the judges.
this group of 4th and 5th graders are the only Bibb County elementary school that has made it all the way to state, competing against middle schoolers.
Oh my God, that arm is too strong.
But that doesn't scare them. In fact, they seem to make friends wherever they go.
Why are you giving that to the other team?
So they can have luck and they'll do really good at the competition.
They are learning every moment and they don't realize they're learning. They're learning how to work together. They're learning how to be leaders. They're learning how to have fun while they're learning, and they don't even realize it.
And now we're going to state. We are a team. We are a friendly competition. We have fun. Robo Pandas!
And the Robo Pandas, they will face 2 middle school teams from Bibb County. They're challenging the Eagle Bots. They're from Methodist Children's Home, and the robotics team from FPD, along with tons of other schools from across the Peach State.